Hi, my name is Chanel Day, and this is my video presentation for my Fostering Community Engagement project. This is the school I work at. It is Bayview Elementary. It's here in Layton, Utah, and I'm just going to walk in the front doors and show you why I think the project I did was so needed and necessary. So as we walk in, there are a lot of decorations that are not normally here. We had a big community event last night, actually. So as we walk in, the first thing we have is our faculty and staff wall. I'm not going to get close enough, you can see faces or names, but you can see that there is basically one culture or race represented here. There's our office, and as we walk this way, we have some student artwork and some more patriotic artwork. In God we trust. And then we have, and this was actually created for part of this project, this wall here. This wall represents basically all of the artwork in the school, aside from student council posters and SEL school information posters. So we have here our flag, Constitution, Founding Fathers, Thomas Jefferson, Benjamin Franklin, James Madison, George Washington, all looking nice, heroic, and of course, there is one skin tone represented here. So this celebration of one culture is definitely what you see when you come into this school. Of course, we live in northern Utah. The dominant culture is the dominant culture. But our school has this amazingly rich and diverse student body. It is vibrant. There are so many cultures represented. We have refugees from all over the world, and none of that is represented in our hallways. When students have that representational gap, how do I put this? They don't feel as welcome, and they don't feel as sure as of themselves. When all of the role models on the walls are old white men, sorry to put it that way, but of one culture, if you are not from that dominant culture, it's hard not to feel through this kind of subliminal messaging that there's nothing worth emulating in your culture. You are not represented as something to be celebrated as much as these men, right? Research has shown that representation within a classroom and a school increases feelings of belonging, not only for students and their families, but can also actually support a positive school environment, which can increase academic achievement and make kids more confident in their abilities. This is a big part of it for me. I'm going to butcher how this goes, but bear with me. If all of the people you see held up as role models and somebody to be emulated are one culture, one skin tone, one look, and it's not yours, I think there's a part of every kid that feels like there's something that they don't have and they're never going to get there because they can't change their culture. They can't change that part of themselves, and they shouldn't want to, but they might end up feeling, even if it's just on the inside, that they aren't their culture, their families, their heritage, they're not worth celebrating. They're not worth looking up to. Aside from that, I think even as teachers, if we only have role models in our curriculum and on our walls and in our hallways that belong to one culture, we can, and it's very pernicious and little and subtle, start to expect things, great things about these kids that look this way, and not expect such great things about the kids that look maybe this way, or anyway that's not this way. And it would be a very subliminal bias, subconscious, but even Thomas Jefferson, who's up on my wall, said, and I'm paraphrasing here, but you can't participate and be an active part of a system that is oppressive and not become a bit of a tyrant yourself. So my project is here to make sure that people of different cultures, different abilities, different orientations are represented on our wall as somebody to be held up as a celebrated person, somebody to be emulated and looked up to, and hopefully have kids see a little bit of themselves in that. When I first started this project, I really thought it was going to be so much easier. I thought I would just look up lists of really cool scientists and role models and leaders and just pick ones that weren't the normal ones up on my walls already. But as I started looking through lists that were on the internet and on blogs and in books of influential people, they were so Eurocentric. They're one culture dominated. You can see as I make these lists that I started by just looking at who are influential people in these categories: arts, STEM, leadership, and kind of spirit of adventure. I didn't want to put any athletes in there because I don't think that, not that they're not great role models, but it's not something every kid can aspire to. Whereas I think being a leader, or these are all things you can learn and develop, whereas not everybody's going to be in the NBA. So I wanted to stay away from athletes. And you can see these lists are a lot of white people. They are very Eurocentric. It is kind of mind-boggling how Eurocentric these lists are. Not because, and you can see I started dividing them in like the blue ones are men, the pinkish ones are girls, fine arts, literature, music. But I had the hardest time. Not that there are not people of these different cultures who did amazing things in these categories, but it's so hard to find lists of them. And where there are lists, a lot of them are current people who are alive today, which I really wanted to stay away from, because what if they do something really terrible in the news and then we have a poster of them on our wall? So I was looking for people kind of more historic, and just running into this issue over and over again. And you can see people, as I asked people for opinions, I finally would put in people like, Mark Twain or JFK or Benjamin Franklin, even though they're just more Eurocentric European role models. What I'm drawing is the actual Turing machine. This is something that he built and created. This is actually one of the first real computers. It had lots of switches and cords. Then we started with his skin. In the background, those are called patches, actually, that are all over his Turing machine. Again, we're making them cartoony here. These are the dials of the Bomba machine, which is actually something that was created by the Polish, and then they were not able to use it effectively, couldn't get it to work. Alan Turing is the one who perfected it and used it to actually break the Enigma code at Bletchley Park. So the Turing machine and the Bomba machine, they are kind of his legacies, and those are what are behind Alan Turing here. This one actually caused me quite a bit of grief. I started it once and then messed it up so badly that I had to start it over again. There is not a lot of verifiable information about her. This is Sacagawea, however, we're not even sure how it's pronounced. You can see I did make her kind of light in this first iteration, and there's where I messed up. Her eyes are just really, truly awful. So I tried really hard to fix her eyes. I covered her eyes up because I couldn't stand them looking at me. And then I just kind of eventually gave up. You can see me right there. That's where I gave up and started over again for her. When I worked on her, I tried contacting the Shoshone tribe, the northwestern band of the Shoshone tribe that is up here in northern Utah in Ogden, and they were not super helpful. They said that she is from a different Shoshone tribe, but that tribe does not have a federal recognition, so they don't have like a website, they don't have a cultural keeper person to reach out. Annie Jump Cannon was such an incredible figure. She really revolutionized astronomy and how we chart stars. And not only was she a woman in the STEM field that was completely unheard of at the time, she got on the faculty of Harvard, which was outrageously, unexpected. She was deaf, and I didn't know that when I actually started this poster, so I thought that was a wonderful representative of somebody who is not the gender norm for that field, but also doing something. This one is Inez Mexia. She is a botanist, and she is, I think, one of my favorite people in the whole world after doing this poster. She is so incredible. The plants in the background are not any specific plants, they're just plants to kind of make up visually interesting layers in the back. I struggled because I kept making her not very dark, and then I needed to darken her up a little bit. I just kept, kind of whitewashing her, and that bothered me. This plant here in the background, though, is one that is named after her. It is one that she discovered. Then I really messed up on her lettering and moved her letters really far over to the right, so then I had to add a bunch of plants to make up for that, balance it out. But those are all ones she would have come across in her. For Cesar Chavez, I really wanted to focus on the people because we all know Cesar Chavez, but I really wanted to focus on how he cared about the people, because that's what really makes him and his movement remarkable. So I did a lot of these people in the background and made it his story kind of their story. I really wanted to focus on the crowds of people. So you can see the migrant workers in the background. You can see protesters. You can see that I've really messed up his mouth, and I'm just hoping nobody will look at that. That's okay. We included that logo, which was fantastic. Facts about him. Really liked that graphic of the people working in the fields, and then in the next one, people at the bottom protesting. And the hardest parts about this project, there were a couple hard parts. One was finding information, right? When I asked people about diverse role models we could add to our walls at school, I kept getting answers that were like, oh, how about this European famous person? And like, they're really cool. They are. So that was hard to find even people to research, and then sometimes there just wasn't a lot of research out there, and what there wasn't from credible sources. It's a lot of speculation. So that was difficult because I don't want to misstep or misrepresent anybody or anything. I did have a run-in with the admin of my school a little bit on one of these. This is my Alan Turing, and if you're wondering who he is, he's a mathematician. You'll notice he is not super diverse looking. What makes him a diverse role model is that he was gay, and he was criminally prosecuted for being gay. And I didn't really mention that so much. I talked about kind of his life story, and then I talked about what he did during the war, and then what he did after the war with AI and everything. And then over here at the very end, I kind of talked about the legacy of his life. And I'm just gonna read this. So the very last paragraph has some quotes by Alan Turing and about Alan Turing and his legacy. And the very last one is not really a quote. It just says, in 2017, decades after Turing's death, the United Kingdom Parliament enacted the Alan Turing Law. This law secured pardons for over 75,000 men and women who, like Alan Turing, faced criminal prosecution for their sexual orientation. Now, on this one, this is the first one I finished, and I emailed a copy of this, just the words, to my admin, making sure she thought it was okay. And she took issue with this. She didn't think we should include his sexual orientation on here. And honestly, I really struggled with that, because if you take away that, all he is a European white man in a field dominated by European men. So I struggled with it, and I was in a really foul mood for a long time, a couple days. And finally I decided that I was gonna leave it on, and that if she wanted to alter it, she was more than welcome to, because it's her school and her right. But I wasn't going to censor that for her. I may have made a poor choice here, but it's the choice that feels right to me and is a little more honest. I don't want to whitewash any of this history. And I made sure to put in most of these that, they faced discrimination. For instance, it was considered impossible for a woman to travel alone. I talked about how she faced prejudices along with all of the things that she accomplished in her life. And Annie Jump Cannon, I talked about how, she was deaf, and these computers, these women were underpaid. They earned as little as 50 cents an hour. I really wanted to make sure people understood the struggle that happened here, and that these people achieved great things in spite of harsh circumstances they overcame, and that's really what makes them incredible. So right now I have lists. I have about 30 people that I definitely want to create posters for. These are a lot of work. Each one of these posters, I didn't log all of it, but it's like 50 hours, 40, 50 hours of work for each one of these, which is insane and not something I can do quickly, all of them right now. But here are 4 that are completely done. In the morning, I'm going to take these to a print shop so I can get them scanned. The school I'm working with is going to have the original copies up on their wall, but I'm really excited about this. We're going to try to distribute them digitally and have copies available for other schools that want them. When I had some of these in my classroom, it was when I had Inez up as I was doing some research for her. And we have a teacher who is from Mexico, and she saw this in my classroom when she came in, and she said that when she was just reading everything I had on it, I didn't have it all finished, but she was reading what there was, and when she turned around, she said that she was crying, and she said, if this had been in my school growing up, it would have changed my life. And obviously, I mean, that made me start tearing up, and she was just really excited about it. And so she contacted our school district diversity chair and showed them, and they got excited about it, and they want to distribute these throughout our school district and possibly through the state, through the UEA, which is really exciting. So I'm going to continue this project. These 4 are done. I'm not sure if Sacagawea will ever get up because I don't want to make any missteps that are offensive. And until I have actual answers, I'm a little anxious, of course, to finish that and be like, here's my name on this, and everybody look at what I've done wrong. So, and then Stephen Hawking, I hate his background, and so I'm changing him to a really, really cool astrophysicist that I found named Chandra, and he's Indian, and he discovered the limit for the size of a star that can turn into a black hole, which is really cool. So I'll replace Stephen Hawking with him when I get going. Maybe I'll also do Stephen Hawking, but with a different background. So thank you guys so much for watching my presentation. I hope it wasn't too boring, just so much footage of me talking and my paintings, hey! This was so much fun. I really enjoyed the opportunity, and I really think this project will make a big difference in students' lives and in the culture of the school, honestly, that it can celebrate more diverse cultures and people and role models. I think it can't be anything but good for our school and our community and our students. And I cannot wait to finish this project and extend it out and see how far I can take it. Thank you.